but you probably. Okay. Okay. Good morning and hello, everyone. Tammy Lynn, Texas Desert Rose here. And let me tell you, for those of you who don't know, I'm living down in the hill country of Texas, and there's been a few things go on lately that are just nothing short of tragic. Um, but in that, there's been such an opportunity to see the people who feel their gratitude that they weren't so horribly affected, but they're also the ones that are jumping in and making a difference. One particular friend of mine shared that, you know, that they decided last minute not to send their daughter to camp, and they've been down at the volunteer HEB community center helping to feed and give water to everybody, like trying to make a difference. You know, the saying, and I cannot give credit because I don't remember who said it, that if you want to see the healers, what, if you want to have, it was Mr. Rogers. It's Mr. Rogers that said, if you want to have hope during a crisis, look at watch the helpers. His mother told him that, and that always affected me. And so the timing of this is pretty powerful. A couple of months ago, has it been a couple of months, Linda? We went to our high school reunion,
Yeah.
and Linda and I had not had contact, not necessarily purposely, just life, right? Uh, what, say about 40, 39
Yeah.
years? Wow.
Yes.
It was such a shock and surprise to see you walk up. You flew from Knoxville and to come to the reunion, and it was just like a breath of fresh air. Like, I feel like we're sisters, you know, and made the decision to go visit you over the 4th of July weekend when all of this stuff was happening here and all these people reaching out and all that. The reason I'm bringing it up is because I had no idea that, Linda, that you had your own, I call it a tragedy. You may call it something different. And I was just in shock to find out about it. And your comment to me was, I just assumed you knew. And the real tragedy with the tragedies is that the assumption that it's such big news, and it was, that everybody knew, which could lend you to, I'll ask you how you feel, to feel like you're in it alone, that nobody's supporting, or the people you thought would support didn't. I had no idea. Linda has blessed me and is blessing me and will
Mhm.
bless you. She's agreed to come on and share her experience. And why am I having her on? Because for those of you who are in the trenches and are struggling, I know you wouldn't describe yourself this way, Linda, because you're so humble, but I see you as a warrior.
Yeah. I mean, I see a lot of people as warriors, you know.
Of course, but
Yeah.
I need you to really receive that, because there's a lot of people out there right now who need your inspiration. Not to put too much pressure on you, but thank you for sharing this story. So, what are your thoughts about coming on?
Um, well, I want to say thank you for having me on. I think when we were talking about what was going on in San Angelo, and I think the conversation about trauma, and then I specifically remember myself saying that the things that these people are going to go through is going to be major and it's going to take years. So for me, um, it's taken a lot of years for me to even be able to talk about it calmly now. When I got shot in a church in July 27, 2008, that's 17 years ago. And so now I'm able to talk about it and be more like outside of the box, look again, and then I'm able to help people more um,
Yes,
with
ma'am.
yeah, with ideas. And I mean, I don't know it all, but I know what helps me is friends, and of course, family, a church. But you got to reach out, like people in San Angelo, and they've got to ask for help. And it sounds like it's wonderful that a lot of people are stepping in and helping.
Sure.
It's a hard thing to do. A lot of us don't have time. You know, we all think that we have to have a certain lifestyle and have all these things, but human connection is the biggest one. And, you know, I did feel very alone in the
Sure.
beginning. Yeah, mass shootings were not, you know, something that we talked about in 2008. And
You're right. It
um,
was very new.
yeah,
You agree?
um, and you know, since then, I mean, I looked up some statistics, and I think mass shootings have gone down 23% since last year, or 23 to 2024, which is amazing. A lot of people are doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and you just don't see it.
Yeah.
But different groups are trying to, you know, put forth different laws, and it's really working. Almost 40 states now don't allow where you can get the slider on a Glock. Like you can slide a button and then you have automatic where the bullets come out constantly. And that's one of the things that is amazing. I mean, even after, you know, you've been through something, people are still working. You just don't, you know, you're not always aware.
The helpers and the
But anyway,
healers don't always need the attention, right?
no, they don't.
Would you
Yeah, you're
be
right.
willing to fill the audience in? And what I'm particularly looking for is not just what happened, but what it was like for you. You know, you did a really good job
Hmm.
in your book, in the book, where this was kind of detailed. If you want to share that book for people, if they want to pick it up. Um, but step us through what happened on that
Yeah.
fateful day in 2008.
So July 27th, which is coming up pretty soon,
It is.
um, 2008. Yeah. My daughter had been in this drama camp, so they were doing the performance of Annie Jr., which is a really popular play.
It
Um,
is.
she's doing the play at a church. So my family and I attended. I had gotten there early. I'd been there several times, you know, helping my daughter with the play. I'd seen the dress rehearsal. But anyway,
And it was at a
I'd
church,
gotten there
your
early and
church.
yeah. Um, and I had picked the whole pew because I knew my whole family was coming. Very excited. And um, what had happened is this: the shooter walked in um, the back of the building, and they wouldn't let him in. Those are the kids and the director. He was carrying a guitar case, and he
The
said he was
shooter
part of the
was.
band, and they knew, yeah, they knew he wasn't. So he goes to the front of the building, and he walks in, and that's when he opens fire. He shoots the usher in front, and he was standing in the way to block him. He knew what was happening, and so I had heard that shot sound like fireworks, but I knew that wasn't part of the play. So I had turned my attention to the front where he obviously had walked in. I had already scooted my younger daughter that was sitting next to me because my older daughter was on the stage at the time when the shooter walked in. So from all the quick, you know, things that were happening, um, all the kids on the stage were going out the back. And as I turned to the left, and I had elbowed my daughter because I knew something was happening. And I turned to the left. That's when I got the second blast. And
Meaning you were hit.
his shotgun in my head right here. Because as I turned, I got a piece of the shotgun, and I got hit right here in the head. And what I had done is, it's intense pain.
Yes, of
I
course.
thought my head was going to fall off. And so I put my hands up like this, protecting and holding my head. At that point, I was starting to get, extremely dizzy, but I had my hands like this. And then he shot again. And this shot, um, the second one had already gotten our friends, one of our family friends that lived with us, had already hit her and she was on the floor, but I didn't know that at the time. Um, but the third shot is what got me in my hands, and I'm blind in my right eye from it.
Okay.
And that third shot also got my father because he was sitting to the right of me on the pew. And then my uncle further on down, he also got hit. So the way the shotgun, he had sawed it so it could fit in the guitar case.
Oh, that's
And so
why.
that, yeah, the bullets, just spread more. And it hit some other people. There were 8 of us that were injured, but it killed the usher that was in
Who
front.
jumped in front of him?
Yeah, and it killed. We called her auntie, family friend, and it killed Linda. Yeah, um,
And my
but
understanding is from
I
reading, my understanding is from reading is
say
that
that
he had
again.
over 72 rounds that he intended to use.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. So after the third shot, I'm out of it. I've already passed out. Um,
Your daughter,
and he was reloaded.
you pushed your daughter back, I think you said. Your younger
Yeah,
daughter.
to
She
the
was how
right
old?
of me. 5.
5 years old.
Yeah. And from what I understand, she's screaming. Everybody's screaming because they had taken the people that were sitting in the middle pew. A lot
Hmm.
of people had left. Like a lot of people escaped, which is, one of the
Of
things that
course.
people will do is flee, which is a really smart move. But some people stayed,
Wow.
and it's probably the position that they were in. But 3 men jumped on him and held him down,
Thank
and
God.
then yeah. Then from other women and other members from that church, they just jumped up and started helping. And one of them had taken my younger daughter because she's covered in blood, and um, the ambulance was really quickly there. Within 5 minutes, from what I understand, they were like right down the street.
Wow.
Um, you know, I was loaded into the ambulance. Here are the stories that I've heard over the years. It's been trying to put the puzzles together because, you know, me being whipped off to the hospital, and I was in a coma for 6 days.
At
Uh,
least. I mean,
yeah.
like, amazing.
It's,
Something that really struck me, Linda, was you sharing that just 5 minutes prior or a few minutes prior, your family friend had asked to switch places so she could take pictures of your oldest daughter on the stage. And I can't imagine how that impacted you. Want to share
um,
anything about that?
yeah, she was always a picture taker. And I used to say, hey, you don't have to take all these pictures. But she asked that day, oh, can I switch seats with you to take pictures? I wanted a good picture, um, of the stage. And I was like, oh, no, 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 you don't need to do that. And because we were close enough, and I knew that they were videotaping it. And, we kind of argued a little bit, like, no, no, no. And she's like, oh, well, please let me. And I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting so we switched spots, and I'm sitting next to her husband. He's in the very front spot in the pew. But yeah, I've had a lot of conversations about survivor guilt.
Sure.
My daughters, always would say, Mom, that would have been you. Even though they love Linda Kreger,
Of
she was an
course they do.
auntie, but they were like, do you just know what life would be like without you? And I mean, those things are really
Hard
tough
one.
to swallow. Just, yeah, circumstances. My family, I mean, we didn't talk for a long time about it. My aunt and uncle and my other uncle was in the back of the sanctuary taking pictures. Um, we didn't talk about it for many, many years.
So it was like the
And they would
elephant in the
always
living
like,
room.
yeah, oh, big time. And a lot of it was because we asked them to come to this church and watch this play. And, I picked the pew. And so it was kind of like my fault if
Or do
we
you
hadn't
feel
asked
like
that.
certainly you internalized that? Do you feel like you were invited to feel that way? It's hard to say.
Probably, or maybe it was probably part me, part um, the fact that we just didn't get together very much for many years later.
Well, and then not
I can
talking
tell
about
you, it
it
was.
would feel that way, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and even my girls, we didn't talk about it. It was probably maybe 3 years or more like 4 or 5 when they were like more receptive, and we were able to have a little mini conversations about it. Um, but yeah, that was the real struggle as far as who you can talk to. Um, I was so busy when I came out of my coma and placed in my private room. I had been shot here, so my memory. I had to work on my speech, physical therapy, occupational therapy. And then even when I came home, I mean, they would come see me like 3 times a week. It was such an intense time.
While your brain's still trying to heal. And I'm sure took quite some
Yeah,
time to happen.
it did. It took at least 2 to 3 years because during that time I had so many surgeries, trying to fix my hands. A lot of my fingers were broken, and
Under that
I
shot.
still can't close my right hand. But feeling, I don't have a whole lot of feeling in my hands. I
I
can't
didn't
work,
realize
of
that.
course. Yeah. And asking for a lot of help. And luckily, the church, because I'd only lived in Knoxville for 2 months before this happened. And luckily, my church, my parents had already moved here to
Yep.
Knoxville, and had friends from previous and things. So I mean, they had already well established, and we have. When I came home, there was a lot of church members helping and doing the best they can. I know my cousin helped because my older daughter wanted, didn't really want to live in the house for a little while, so she went to live with my cousin. I mean, it takes a village, and during that time,
Right.
I'm trying to build strength, and then my dad got shot in the lung, so he's going through his own um, healing, and then my uncle, but my children, that was the hardest part for me, not able to be a full mom, you know what I mean? Be there and take them to school or walk them to the bus or help them with homework. I mean, I could barely even write my name. Um,
Right. And
so
you weren't able, you were such a mom, such a good mom, but not your idea or what you were able to do before. And that is
yeah, and then not
so,
having these conversations, it just
well,
it's
it's kind
hard.
of, it doesn't, I would imagine that it halts your healing if nobody's talking about it. No blame to them. I'm just telling you factually, that would halt your ability to heal,
Mm-mm.
to be able to process. And even as an introvert, as I know you are, where you do a lot of the processing in your head, there's some level that you needed to do
Yeah,
out loud because you don't remember.
yeah. That's interesting that you say that because at the time it happened, Chloe was 5. And so her ideas of what happened, a 5-year old's version.
Sure.
And yeah, and the things that are coming and we're talking about, and I, the school was very helpful, and they, would she'd had counseling like once a week, but she was known as the weird kid at school,
After
in a
that,
shooting, yeah, and then also my older daughter had to feel that effects, but
she was
it
what,
was a
13 when
struggle,
that happened?
yeah. And
Heartache.
it was hard. I mean, counseling, we do group counseling, but the real big thing were our little conversations starting to happen. It just made more of an impact because, no more elephant in the room, like you said. We're able to talk about it. And then, there was moments when, we were tired of talking about it,
Sure.
um, yeah, but my younger daughter did so much work. She was able to pull up the shooter had left a note in his truck, and I think he was expecting to be killed. Of
Yeah.
course, this was planned and thought out. Left the note in the truck, but the sad thing is it was published. I don't think that's a good thing to do, to publish things
The
that
notes.
it gives more notoriety or makes the shooter famous. Um, it's not giving, you
It's a
know,
reward
um,
to the, it can be a
yeah.
reward to them.
And I would have liked to seen the letter first before it was published. But
Well
anyway,
said.
so
Yeah.
it was on the web. And my younger daughter, Chloe, she was able to pull it up and go through and talk about these things with a therapist. It was very, very helpful. It helped her put, the things that she thinks happened and then what his responses were. And because she was carrying a lot of PTSD,
Of
like at
course she
school,
was.
oh my goodness. She's getting into a little bit of trouble just from like someone's yelling, just
Yep.
from just someone yelling. It would trigger responses.
Not to mention the kid's response to her. She was carrying a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. And it took like 3 years for me to get a part time job. And they
Well,
had
it's
kept my
amazing that
job.
you ever were able to work again.
And yeah. And so I just did part time because I knew as far as being strong and standing on my feet. And it was such a blessing, regaining my strength just little by little. But I decided to go back to school, wanted to be a
Well, and
teacher.
yeah, I don't want to make too small a light of you walk through all of this. You're doing your own healing. You're helping your family to heal as best you can. And Linda decides, hey, I'm going to go back to college. That's the warrior
Yeah.
part. I want to
Well,
know more about that.
I looked at it as a second chance on life. And I thought, you know what? I wasn't sure what I wanted to do before when I was young. And so once this happened, I was like, oh, let me do what I'm passionate about. I like learning, helping others. And so teaching just made sense. Both my parents were teachers. Um, but I also looked at it like this is a way for me to learn and grow my brain again because all these um, areas in my head needed, to fix itself. And I felt
And
like the more information.
is it your understanding that the brain does regenerate? I know some of the synapses do, but you took quite a
Like
bit of hit.
the area that's damaged that can't be repaired, but finds other ways. So the synapses, um, I mean, they might be doing some research trying to get those things stimulated in the brain in those areas.
You
Um,
probably be good for some of that research if you were ever open to that.
yes, I am. Um, but I really enjoyed going back to school. I know my message for my girls was not to give up. I mean, maybe I won't be, I just didn't know, but I didn't want them to see me just to be, sad and depressed and like poor me. I just made sure and kept going. I mean, I had good and bad days, um, but I
I think
embraced
it's
it. I started.
amazing how I'm sure that you are their inspiration, but it's beautiful how they were your inspiration too.
I think my oldest daughter, since she was on the one on the stage, she carried heavy burdens from it. It took her the longest to realize, it's not your fault. This guy came in and did what he did. It's not your fault. Um, live your life. Nobody's blaming you, but don't stop. Don't get frozen in your fear. Um, and don't escape into other things, trying to avoid, because she did that for a few years.
Sure.
But yeah, just keep pushing yourself. It's hard. Um, there's days, I remember when I did graduate and how excited I was, and the girls went to my graduation. But I couldn't get a job for a while. I mean, I did substitute and interim teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's it's also probably my confidence. It's a good thing that it happened how it did, is rebuilding my confidence level. I was also very nervous being in a school environment, and you're hearing of all these school shootings happening.
Probably being
Yeah,
anywhere, Linda. But
that's
yeah,
true. Yeah. And I didn't want the girls to be scared to go out in public. I mean, I had my own PTSD, but I told them what I do. When I walk in a room, I know where all my exits are. I always sit in a certain spot, and they know me really well now. But they do the same things. They know, where they can exit quick. Um,
well, and I think
so it's
about this past weekend, and we are 17 years later, but when it comes to CPTSD, it can feel like yesterday. And we were in a pretty crowded on a holiday weekend, pretty crowded area in Gatlinburg. And you're like, let's
mhm.
go do what do you call it? The,
Sky lift, sky
let's go do
bridge.
the sky lifts and go across this glass bridge with 500 people on it. And I'm like, you are a warrior. I don't care what you say. You are a warrior.
Well, I think that like that moment was big for me because, and I appreciate you supporting me on that, because these
Absolutely.
are things that I've always wanted to do, and it gives me strength. I'm able to, push myself a little further. Um,
Pretty
but
amazing.
since I'm blind in one eye, I still take in a lot of stimulus, and so I'm constantly looking around and being very aware. But yeah, that was a big deal. It was a big deal. I enjoyed it so much. I felt
Yes.
so powerful afterwards.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
like the 3 or 4 year old getting on a roller coaster. You know,
yeah,
like this was that big or probably bigger for you. And I had no idea that you were blind in one eye. So I think you have compensated more than you can even imagine. I mean, you know what you go through, how
yeah,
you can get stimulated in crowds and all of that. But you live your life. You are a teacher of fifth graders.
yes,
And I have
yeah.
no
We teach.
doubt that they love you and you're really good at it.
I really enjoy it. Being with children is wonderful, and also just our daily conversations when things pop up. Um, we always have that shooter conversation. If someone comes in, what would you do? And they have no idea. I don't ever share my story, of course, because that's not my. I don't feel that's not my place to share that with them. Um, but we have conversations, but then there's a certain point when, what if, and I'm like, hey, I've got this. I promise you, I've got this,
That's
and it's so funny. I have a baseball bat in my room, and they're like, "What's this for? You play baseball?" And
good
I was
for
like,
you. Good for
Yeah,
you.
it's just in case. You just never know. But you know, it's I love fifth grade. It's such a sweet age, and you know, you many conversations about real life, and you know, when you're having a bad day, and we have excellent counselors and people at our school that you know when things happen, we have a good system set up for the
I'm sure.
children, and our school's really safe, or I would not be there.
I
Um,
believe that.
you know, the staff knows, administration knows, um,
How's that for
and
you?
I really, I really appreciate that they know my story, that I'm seen and heard. There are times when they do a little bit extra to the building. Um, they inlaid this material into the glass that, you know, if it gets shot at, it doesn't disintegrate. And I'll say, hey, I love what you just did. It just makes, you know, me feel better. And now
That
these
means a
kids
lot to
don't
them.
know, and the people that have never been in, you know, a shooting, I would just tell them, hey, what you're doing is the right thing. You're preventative, you're thinking forward. They also learn from other things that happen, how to make life better, because number one thing is everybody's safety. And it's not just the kids they worry about being safe, it's the teachers and everybody. Not I just
Yeah.
really
So
thankful.
I had shared with you that I'm going to be doing a school. I'm going to be working at a school in the
Mm-hmm,
fall, and I went to go visit to see one of my kiddos ahead of time this
mm-hmm.
past year. And I shared with you that they have the signs up that warn any potential
Yep.
attackers or shooters that the teachers do have the
Are
option
armed.
of carrying.
Yep.
And, hearing your story, I understand. I could see where that could be a deterrent if they happen to see the sign.
Yeah. Um, and it's a good thing. I mean, it's making those people aware. Um, I would never carry a weapon because I have one eye. You know, that's just ridiculous for me. But I do have faith in others that, you know, that want to do that. I know they
And
have some kind of
potentially,
safety.
none of them are carrying, just
So
having
yeah,
a
you don't
sign up,
know. Yeah.
I don't want to give,
Sometimes we have.
yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think sometimes we have like someone that's military, or you know, there's always you just never know. I think they're starting like safety programs where you have to do so many hours of training.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I hope
I think
so.
it's
Um, and of course, here in Texas, you have people who are carrying on the daily, but I don't want to
mm-hmm.
give the shooter too much attention, but I do believe the audience would be wondering what happened, what was the end result with this person? Do we know anything about his motivation and what happened to him?
So the letter that he left in the truck, he clearly has a lot of anger against a lot of people.
Okay.
Um, one person is from the church that used to go there, his ex-wife. But
Oh,
in
you used to go to
essence, it's
that
just boiled down
church.
to
Got
hate
it.
crime. It's
Mm,
just a hate crime. That's what the police boiled it down to. A lot of hate for ethnic groups. Um,
okay.
the Unitarian Universalists, they welcome all um, cultures and things. It's just,
Hate.
yeah, just flat out hate. He,
And mental illness, I would imagine.
yeah, and that was one of the, you know, what they used for his defense.
Oh,
But the test that they ran, he didn't qualify. But he did plead guilty
okay.
because so much video. If you think about how many people were videotaping the play, plus you know the church had their own camera going, so it's you know he did plead guilty. He got 2 life sentences with no parole. He can never get out.
Right.
He's in a Memphis prison.
Okay.
Um, he was in solitary confinement for quite a while, based on the area that the where he's placed. Um, a lot of people, they were afraid that something would happen to him. So he's been in solitary confinement. I think he's in what they call general population now with
Hmm.
other inmates because it's been so long. It's but yeah, I have a friend that checks every now and then. I mean, he's still alive. He's hadn't passed away. I think
I'm
at the
glad that he
time
checks.
um, I think at the time he was in his 60s. So it's
Okay.
yeah.
So we're looking at almost
Uh,
80, maybe
I
80 plus.
made sure, when the discussion came up, because a lot of like the 8 of us that were injured, they came to us and asked each of us, how do you feel? Do you want the death penalty, or you know, um, and of course, the Linda Crager's husband thought about it that he wanted a death penalty, and we just had a conversation between the group that I had done enough research that it's money wise, it's more money for someone to sit on death row, and you're paying
Eight
for.
times more, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. So that's how we all came to an agreement. And I just said, he shouldn't ever be out again because his intention was to be killed from his letter. And so if he comes back out, um, I know I was still very nervous. I didn't even go to the court. I didn't even go to any of his
Of course.
trials, hearings. I didn't even go to the punishment phase. I just too scared, you
Very
know?
understandable. Very
Yeah.
understandable. Um, so after spending a weekend there, I got to see how amazingly beautiful your life is. Would you be willing to share some of the beauty, um, so that people are not left with seeing you as somebody who went through this and didn't thrive?
Well, I'm proud. I've been teaching um, for years now. It's helped me. I've gotten to the point. I'm very independent. I, helped my parents as they went through Alzheimer's, and
Okay.
gained more of an appreciation for all the support that I've had. I still help at my church. Um,
Beautiful.
I spend a lot of time with my children. I love the fact that I'm don't react to things like when we went to the fireworks. You and I mean, I enjoyed it. It's just the
It was
beauty of
pretty low
things.
key, but it was loud. There are a few people.
Yeah,
It was perfect in that way, I think.
yeah. So in that respect, I really embracing life more and like getting out and doing things and not being so fearful.
And that
I
beautiful
did join.
grandbaby.
Yeah, she's a delight.
Love it.
And I also joined a group called Moms Demand Action, and they're a wonderful group that they give presentations called Being Smart, that they want people to do a better job and be more responsible if you own a gun. So those are one of the
Excellent.
ways that I reached out and not, I was trying to think, well, how can I help all these
Make a
mass
difference.
shootings?
Yeah. Besides the everyday making a difference that you do, and, with the kiddos, with other teachers, you're an inspiration. And I don't know many people who are an inspiration because that's their intention. So I think the same with you. That's not necessarily your intention. You're very humble, you're low key, but you were put in this world to be an inspiration. I have no doubt about that.
Aw. Yeah, it's hard to accept compliments still. I still struggle, with those kind of things. I think everybody does.
Sure.
Um, But
Sure.
reconnecting like with you and like I went to my the reunion, our high school reunion. It's good for people to reach out and make connections. It's so important not to be alone, whether through your church or whatever. I just feel without that, I would not be here with all the support I've had in my life. It's just so important.
Well, and you said you kind of decided last minute, maybe you're going back and forth about going to the reunion. Now I feel the huge impact of you going, come on, I'm going to do it. And you making a flight down to Dallas. We're from Denton, for those of you who don't know. I mean, like
Yeah,
that
just
was a
getting on
big
the plane.
yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was a big deal. Just getting on the plane and going through all that. I had no idea what it's like in all these years of the security and the things that, in place. And then the world's scary. I mean, I get it.
A
But
lot. A lot. And I'm so glad you did make that move. Did you find that at the reunion, did anybody know, or was that an issue in your mind of who's going to know, who's going to ask me about it, or not really?
um, I was surprised. One person knew all about it, but then she was um, a minister at a Unitarian Universalist church.
Okay,
So
so
that
she
kind
would
of made
know.
sense.
Yeah.
But you know, when she talked to me, it wasn't at the actual dance or reunion, that party we had. It's when we went and looked at the brand new high school,
Okay.
and it was very quiet and low key. And she's mentioned it, and I was very, very shocked. And she was so kind and
He always
asking,
has been.
oh yeah, sweet, sweet person. And after that conversation, I felt a little relieved. Um, as far as how she talked to me about it, and how kind, and then it just flowed right nicely into what she's doing with her life, and how um, you know same path as me. We like to help people, um,
I love
and
that.
it yeah. But no one else mentioned it. I think I mentioned it just casually to you. I kind of assumed
You were very
back
casual
then.
about it. And I'm like, oh
Yeah.
no, dog with a bone here. I need to know about this. Of course, I sensed that you were open to talking more about it because I didn't know
Hmm.
when it happened. It could have been last year. And if there had been a block up there, I would not have pushed. But I just felt like you're an inspiration and I wanted to know more. And like you're sitting in front of me and these things have happened. And the more you talked about it, I'm like, there's no way this woman sitting in front of me has been through all that. I can't even tell. I don't know what I thought I would be able to tell, but that's a lot, you know?
I just felt comfortable with you. I think back in early 2000s, people still watched the news. People kind of still knew what was happening in the rest of the world. But over time, people just don't. They don't have access to TV and watch the news. Like before, and then it's so hard to watch. A lot of people just automatically tune it out.
'Cause it's so
So,
scary, I think.
but what happened to me, I feel like there's so much that's happened. A lot of people have their own trauma. I mean, even maybe you weren't shot like me, you still saw and visualized something. So I think everybody's affected somehow by some kind of trauma that's major.
So
Mine's just
much.
a little different. I mean,
Yours is what
what
they
y'all
call
are going,
acute,
yeah.
very much.
Um,
Um, so any, do you want to share the name of the book, or if someone wants to get in touch with Linda, you're welcome to uh, message me on the Texas Desert Rose Facebook page. And Linda, you can decide whether you want to include your email or whatever there. And it's okay if you don't. I'll make sure you get any
yeah.
messages that come out and well wishes, of
Um,
course.
I think the book's in the other room. I think it's called The
I
Side
took
of
a
Love. Standing on
picture.
the Side of Love. Did you
Yeah,
take a picture?
Yeah,
Okay. I
and
was in the other room.
let me see here. I did take a
It's a photography book with my story and two other people at the back of it. But it's a nice, pleasantly done book to where the pictures were like a year after the shooting,
yeah.
and then this book was created 10 years later. So this woman had taken a lot of pictures. She was a member of that church, and she and I just became really good friends.
Love is the Spirit, The Journey of a
Love is a spirit.
Courageous and Resilient Community by Karen Crow.
Crow.
Krogh. For anybody who's interested, I felt like, Linda, you did a really good job of detailing what it was like for you. And then today,
Mm-hmm.
processing and talking about what it's been like for you during and since and the overcoming and how you have taken that, um, what I call a Chiron wound, um, and just a healer, turn it into healing. So the world will be a better place for what you're doing and continue to do.
Well,
I thank you.
thank you for letting me share this story and having my voice. For many years, I held it in, and I think I really appreciate you allowing me to do that.
Such an honor. Such an honor. So, everybody, thank you for tuning in. And like we said, if you want to give any comments or um, let Linda know how this has impacted you, please send a YouTube or Facebook message. This will be posted in both. And thank you so much, Linda. You're a blessing.
All right. Thank you.